Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of everything you've ever wanted. The dream job, the love you've been searching for, the recognition you've spent years clawing toward, it's all right there, just a breath away. You can almost taste it. And yet, there's a tremor in your chest. A quiet dread, as if some hidden part of you knows that the moment you finally step across that invisible line, the world you thought would save you might be the very one that devours you. You tell yourself this is absurd. Dreams are supposed to liberate you. Aren't we taught, from the time we can barely hold a pencil, to dream big? To believe that if we just keep moving toward those visions, they will lead us to happiness, meaning, safety? And yet, why is it that so many who finally get everything they once ached for, fame, fortune, love, end up hollowed out, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m, asking themselves why they still feel incomplete? Could it be that your dreams are not your salvation, but your seduction? That what you desire most is quietly shaping the very trap that keeps you restless? Close your eyes for a moment and consider this. How many of your dreams are truly your own? How many are echoes implanted in you by parents, by culture, by the endless theater of comparison that you scroll through every night? You think you are pursuing what you want, but what if your wanting itself has been hijacked? And even worse, what if the day those dreams come true is the day you discover they were never meant to be yours in the first place? This is where Schopenhauer enters like a shadow in a brightly lit room. He once said that life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. Think about that. You spend years in the pain of striving, believing that when you finally reach the other side, when your dream materializes, you will be free. But then the pendulum swings, and on that other side, there is no bliss, only the dull ache of having nothing left to chase. And so you reach again, and the cycle continues. Is it possible that your dreams betray you not because they don't come true, but because they do? There's something almost cruel in this, isn't there? The very images you carry in your heart, the visions that keep you moving forward when everything else feels unbearable, could they be leading you somewhere you never wanted to go? Could they be setting you up for a heartbreak so deep it masquerades as success? Think of how many people you've seen rise to everything they imagined, artists who become famous, entrepreneurs who finally strike gold, couples who build the life they swore they wanted, and yet they unravel. Depression, addiction, a strange, heavy silence that follows the applause. You wonder, why does the summit feel like another kind of fall? And if their dreams betrayed them, why would yours be any different? There's a deeper cruelty hidden here. When you don't reach your dream, you live with longing. When you do, you live with disillusionment. It's a no-win equation. Schopenhauer believed this was the nature of desire itself. It is a hunger that consumes you, but is never satisfied. Once you feed it, it grows silent for a moment, only to open its jaws again, demanding something more. The betrayal isn't in the outcome. The betrayal is in the structure of desire itself. So ask yourself, how much of your life has been a feverish chase for something you believed would set you free? How many years have been sacrificed on the altar of an image in your mind? An image that might dissolve the moment you actually touch it. There is a haunting possibility you may have never considered. Perhaps your dreams are not designed to give you peace. Perhaps they are designed to keep you moving, restless, unsatisfied. What if the very engine of life is built upon this endless tension between wanting and having? And what you call your dream is just the bait to keep you running on a wheel that never stops? And here is the question that should keep you awake tonight. If your dreams can betray you, if even their fulfillment leaves you stranded, what then is the point of chasing them at all? Because if Schopenhauer was right, you might already be walking toward a trap disguised as your own heart's desire. And yet, this is only the surface. There is something older, deeper, more insidious at work. You think your dream is your own, but its roots stretch down into the dark soil of your psychology, into the forces that shape you long before you ever learn to speak. And until you see it, until you name it, you will continue to run, mistaking the leash for freedom. And this is where everything begins to unravel. Imagine peeling back the skin of your life, every routine, every goal, every late-night fantasy of what you think will finally make everything right, and underneath you find something that doesn't belong to you. Something that has been whispering to you for so long, you began to mistake its voice for your own. This is where the betrayal begins. Your dreams are not born in the pure solitude of your heart. They are grown in the greenhouse of everything that has ever influenced you. Family expectations, cultural narratives, the flashing images of people who appear happier, freer, richer, more loved. From the very beginning, you are handed a blueprint for your life, and you mistake the blueprint for desire. You've heard the phrase, follow your dreams. But if you could see what lies beneath that instruction, you would realize most people are not following a dream, they're following a script. And the script is ancient, older than they realize, written not by them, but by the collective mind of the society they were born into. Arthur Schopenhauer saw this clearly. He believed that beneath all human thought and ambition, there is a single, blind force, the will, not your personal will, but a cosmic irrational striving that uses you, that speaks through you, that pushes you to want and want and want without end. You think your dream belongs to you, but in truth, you are simply the vehicle through which this will expresses itself. And here's where the cruelty deepens. This will doesn't care about your happiness. It doesn't care about fulfillment. It only cares that you keep striving. Once you grasp this, you start to see why satisfaction always slips through your fingers, like water you cannot hold. Carl Jung, in his own way, echoed this idea. He said that so much of what drives you is unconscious. You think you are choosing, but often you are chosen by forces you cannot see. Your shadow, the unacknowledged parts of you, lurks in the background, shaping what you desire and why. Even the dream you call noble may be built out of wounds. A child ignored by their parents grows into an adult who dreams of applause. A teenager mocked for their appearance grows into someone who dreams of beauty and validation. And so the very thing you chase is often an echo of your pain. Friedrich Nietzsche warned of a different trap, the herd. He believed most people never create their own values. They inherit them. And so they pursue what everyone else has told them matters, never realizing they have been domesticated. Even rebellion can be part of the trap another dream handed to you, disguised as freedom. And if you think this is just philosophy, consider the modern science that has caught up to these insights. Cognitive psychology has shown that our brains are not as autonomous as we like to believe. We are subject to endless biases. The availability heuristic, we overvalue what we see most often. Social proof, we assume what others pursue must be worthwhile. And hedonic adaptation, the tendency to return to a baseline of dissatisfaction, no matter how much we gain. Neuroscience reveals how dopamine, the neurotransmitter of desire, is not a chemical of happiness, but of pursuit. It rewards the chase, not the catch. Do you see the trap yet? Even your brain is wired to trick you into believing that the next thing will finally fix you. But once you have it, the dopamine fades, the high dissolves, and then the whisper starts again, telling you to move the goalpost one step further. And so the betrayal of your dreams doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens slowly, invisibly, as your life is guided by forces that promise salvation, but deliver only another reason to keep reaching. The tragedy is that you think you're failing because you haven't gotten there yet. But the truth is, there doesn't exist. Aldous Huxley saw this pattern clearly in modern society. He warned that humans, given enough distractions and seductive illusions, will willingly enslave themselves. And what greater illusion is there than the belief that the next accomplishment will end the longing? This hidden architecture of desire is why so many live in quiet torment. You may not even notice it at first. It looks like ambition. It looks like drive. It looks like self-improvement. It even earns you applause. But beneath it lies a current of restlessness that no amount of success can calm. You can run as fast as you want, but when the goal is a mirage, all running does is tire you out. If you've ever felt this, if you've ever wondered why the joy of achievement fades so quickly, then you've already brushed up against this truth. You've already glimpsed that strange moment when the ladder you've been climbing disappears into thin air, and suddenly you're suspended in space, wondering what the climb was for. And maybe you've started to feel it even now, that whisper, that suspicion that something about your dream feels like a leash disguised as a gift, that maybe you've been tricked into chasing something that will, in the end, consume you. You might think, fine, if that's true, if my dreams aren't even mine, what's the point? And that is exactly the question Schopenhauer forces you to confront. Because only by staring into this brutal reality, without flinching, can you begin to see the world as it truly is. But be careful. What you find there is not comforting. It will not pat you on the back and tell you everything is fine. What it will do is strip away every illusion you've been clinging to. And once that happens, there is no going back. And that is where the consequences begin to bloom. For once you understand that the very thing you've been reaching for has been shaping not just your choices, but your very sense of self, you realize that the betrayal goes much deeper than a broken dream. It reaches into the very structure of your life. And that is where we must go next. Imagine for a moment that you wake up one day and everything you've ever wanted is within your grasp. Every obstacle removed, every gate opened. And yet, as you stand there holding the golden key, you feel a hollowness so profound that it echoes. This is the quiet disaster that so many never see coming. The betrayal of dreams is not only in their emptiness when fulfilled, but in the way they shape your life long before you ever get there. While you're striving, while you're sacrificing, while you're convinced that the suffering has meaning because it leads somewhere, your dreams are silently writing the script of your existence. Think of the years given away to something that turns out to be an illusion. The friendships you neglected because you were too busy chasing. The risks you didn't take because they didn't fit the plan. The moments of joy you let slip through your fingers because you were always living for a future that never really existed. This is the invisible theft life stolen by an idea. What you never notice while you are caught up in this chase is that your very identity becomes entangled with what you are pursuing. You don't just have a dream. You become your dream. Your worth starts to feel conditional, tied to the possibility of achievement. Who are you if you let it go? Who are you without something to reach for? And here's the sinister part. Society loves this version of you. The restless, striving version. The economy is built on it. Entire industries are devoted to keeping you dreaming, to convincing you that happiness lies just a little further ahead. A new car, a better body, another degree, more followers. They whisper, keep going, because your dissatisfaction feeds their profit. Your endless longing makes you a perfect customer. The consequence? You never arrive. You never sit still long enough to realize that the very act of chasing has become your prison. Psychologists call this the arrival fallacy, the belief that happiness is waiting at the end of a goal. Research shows that as soon as we achieve something, our brains adapt. The satisfaction evaporates, and a new longing emerges to take its place. Like a mirage in the desert, fulfillment always recedes just beyond the next dune. And the more you run, the less you know who you are. The modern obsession with following your dream has a hidden cost. It turns your identity into a moving target. When the dream changes, when reality refuses to bend, when failure comes, you don't just lose a goal, you lose yourself. This doesn't only affect individuals. It bleeds into the fabric of society. Entire generations have been taught to value external markers of success over internal clarity. The result is a culture of constant dissatisfaction. People scrolling through endless images of someone else's curated life, convinced they are falling behind, convinced that if they just wanted harder, worked harder, proved themselves more, they would finally feel whole. You start to see this everywhere. The artist who no longer enjoys creating because their worth has been consumed by the need to be seen. The young professional who burns out before 30, convinced that another promotion will make the exhaustion worth it. The couple who marries because that was the dream, only to realize that the dream was a distraction from a deeper loneliness. And so, what was meant to be a guide becomes a trap. Even your emotions become warped. When you pin your joy to a vision of the future, the present begins to feel like an obstacle. You stop seeing what is in front of you. You stop living. You become a ghost haunting your own life, always reaching for something that seems to be just one more effort away. Philosophers have warned about this for centuries. Sartre would call it bad faith, living a life that is inauthentic, shaped by the roles and expectations given to you, rather than by a deeper confrontation with freedom and responsibility. Nietzsche would call it a refusal to face the terrifying reality that meaning must be created, not found. And Schopenhauer, with his brutal clarity, would simply say, "This is the will. This is what it means to be human." But modern psychology adds something even more unsettling. Studies show that the more vividly you imagine a future in which your dream comes true, the less motivated you become to live meaningfully now. Your mind gets a small chemical reward for fantasizing, and reality pales by comparison. You end up addicted to possibility, neglecting the only thing that is real, this moment. And when that future doesn't come or comes and disappoints, the crash is brutal. Some people recover, many do not. For some, it becomes a quiet despair. For others, it becomes a lifelong bitterness that poisons every other experience. This is the unseen consequence. When you bet everything on a dream, you gamble with your life. You gamble with your sanity. And most people don't even realize they are playing the game. By now, you might feel a heaviness in your chest. You might even feel a resistance, a desire to say, "No, this doesn't apply to me. My dream is different." And maybe it is. But ask yourself, do you know that for certain? Have you traced the root of it down to its core? Or have you just accepted that what you want is what you should want? Because here is the truth that few dare to face. To truly see the machinery of desire is to admit that you are not as free as you think you are. And when you admit that, something inside you starts to break. The comfortable illusions you've lived with begin to crumble. And it is only in the rubble that something else, something more real, can finally appear. But to reach that point, you must be willing to rebel. You must be willing to confront the terrifying possibility that you may need to throw away the very dreams you've been living for. And that rebellion begins with a single, dangerous question. What if you stopped believing in the promises your dreams have made to you? What happens when you finally dare to stop running? Not because you have arrived, but because you see clearly, maybe for the first time, that the running itself was the trap. This is the rebellion Schopenhauer never explicitly named, but which hums like a low, dangerous current beneath his philosophy. The first act of freedom is to step out of the chase, to look your dream in the eye and say, "You are not my master." But to do this, you must confront a terrible fear, the fear of emptiness. If you let go of the dream, what is left? What fills the void? The thought alone terrifies you, because so much of your identity has been built upon the next thing. Without a vision of tomorrow, the present can feel like a wasteland. And yet, paradoxically, this is the only path out of the illusion. Think of those rare people who seem untouchable by the chaos of the world, those who are deeply alive, even without the validation or symbols of success that everyone else is clawing for. They seem immune to the betrayal of their dreams because they've chosen a different path. They've stopped believing that meaning lives in the future. They've decided to create it here, in the raw texture of their own lives. This shift is not glamorous. It does not fit into motivational posters. It is radical in its simplicity, to stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What am I doing when no one is watching?" Nietzsche called this the path of self-overcoming. Jung called it individuation, the slow, painful work of turning inward, of facing the parts of yourself you've hidden, the shadow that has been shaping your desires in secret. To rebel is to drag those shadows into the light, to ask whether the dream you are serving is your dream at all, or if it is just the ghost of someone else as expectation. And when you see it clearly, something begins to happen. A kind of death, the death of the illusion, the death of the idea that fulfillment waits for you at the end of a golden road. The paradox? After the death comes life. You begin to notice things you had been too blind to see before. Small things, quiet things, the way sunlight spills across a table, the taste of water when you're truly thirsty, the laughter that erupts out of nowhere with someone you love. These moments, once invisible to you, begin to feel full, and for the first time, they are enough. The rebellion, then, is not about refusing to have dreams at all. It's about refusing to be possessed by them. It's about choosing them with awareness, not compulsion. About turning them from masters into companions. This is not easy. It requires something almost no one in modern culture wants to practice: stillness, reflection, silence. The willingness to look at yourself without distraction and ask, if I stripped away every external measure of worth money, fame, beauty, power, what would remain? In that silence, you may begin to sense a strange truth, that you are not empty at all, that the frantic striving was keeping you from something infinitely more grounded, the ability to simply be. History is full of examples of those who have found freedom in this way. Think of the Stoics, who turned inward and discovered that no fortune or misfortune could touch the sovereignty of a disciplined mind. Think of Buddhist monks who renounce everything, not because they hate life, but because they want to finally live it without illusion. Even Schopenhauer, who saw life as suffering, found refuge in music, art, and contemplation experiences that transcend the tyranny of desire. To rebel against your dreams is not to destroy ambition. It is to purify it. It is to ask over and over, does this goal enlarge me, or does it enslave me? Does it arise from freedom or from fear? And when the answer is fear, as it so often will be, you let it go. The cost of this rebellion is high. It will make you strange in the eyes of others. You will no longer play by the same rules. You may even lose friends who cannot bear to see someone stepping off the treadmill they themselves are trapped on. But the reward is greater than anything the treadmill could ever promise. A life that is yours. There is one more layer to this rebellion, one final piece that makes it revolutionary. Gratitude. Not the saccharine, forced kind, but a raw and almost defiant gratitude. The ability to stand in the wreckage of all the illusions that failed you and say, even without them, I am enough. Even without the dream, I am alive. Because once you realize that you can live fully without the future dangling a reward in front of you, you have broken the oldest and most pervasive spell humanity has ever been under. So here is the question that stands like a knife at the edge of everything you know. Are you willing to betray your dreams before they betray you? For in doing so, you might finally become free of them. And yet, there is something beyond even this rebellion. Something deeper. Because even after you stop running, after you let the dream die, a greater realization awaits one that changes the very way you see reality itself. And that is where we must go next. Imagine you have stepped out of the race. The crowd that once ran alongside you is now just a blur in the distance. You stand still for the first time in your life. And at first, the silence feels unbearable. You expect it to crush you. You expect the weight of meaninglessness to fall like a stone. But slowly, something else happens. There is a moment, a small, fragile moment, when you realize that the stillness you were so afraid of is not empty. It is full. What you thought was a void is not a void at all. It is space. Space to breathe, space to see, space to exist without being dragged by the leash of your own craving. This is where the final truth reveals itself, and it is nothing like the life you had before. The ultimate betrayal of dreams was never that they didn't come true. It was that they convinced you that reality wasn't enough without them. And this realization, when it finally breaks open inside you, changes everything. Schopenhauer spent his life exposing the nature of the will, the restless force that drives all of life. And he came to a conclusion most people would rather not hear. The only real freedom comes when we no longer let that will control us, when we stop obeying its endless command to want. To live without being driven is not to stop caring. It is to care differently. Think of this. The sun still rises whether or not you become the person you dreamed of being. The sky is just as vast. The wind does not care about your failures. And in this indifference, there is a strange, quiet mercy. The truth is, you are never lacking. You were simply looking through the wrong lens. You thought your value was something you had to earn, something you had to arrive at, but it was there before the striving began, and it will be there after it ends. This is not resignation. It is liberation. For once, you can look at your desires and see them for what they are, waves on the surface of a much deeper ocean. And you are not the waves. You are the ocean. When you grasp this, something extraordinary happens. You are no longer afraid of your dreams. You can still have them. You can still work toward them. But they no longer define you. They no longer hold you hostage. They are playthings now, not chains. You can want and still be free. It is as if the betrayal that once haunted you becomes a kind of teacher. It strips away the illusion so thoroughly that for the first time, you can see the beauty of simply being. Jung might say that this is when the self begins to emerge, not the ego, not the mask you wear for the world, but the quiet, whole self that has always been there, waiting beneath the noise. Nietzsche would call it the moment of yes, the affirmation of life as it is, without the condition that it must give you what you want. And Schopenhauer? He would say that in this state, art, philosophy, and even love become something higher. They are no longer instruments for achieving a dream. They are acts of pure being. They lift you out of the grasp of the will, even if only for a moment. Look around in this state and notice what happens. The people you meet are no longer stepping stones or obstacles. They are mysteries, whole and strange, just like you. The work you do is no longer a ladder. It is an expression. Even your suffering takes on a new shape. It becomes something you face, not because it leads somewhere, but because it is part of the fabric of being alive. And in this way, the dream no longer betrays you, because you are no longer looking for it to save you. This is the final paradox, the moment you stop believing that a dream will complete. You is the moment you become whole enough to dream without fear. The ultimate truth is not that you should abandon your dreams. It is that you must stop asking them to carry the weight of your life. When you do, something astonishing happens. Life becomes lighter. The future no longer presses on your chest. You can finally look at the person you were before all the striving began, the child who simply existed. Curious, unashamed, alive, and you can say, I remember you. You were here all along. And here is the haunting beauty of it. You realize that all the years you spent running were not wasted, because they led you to this understanding. They burned away the illusion so that the truth could stand naked before you. Now, ask yourself, what happens to your life when you are no longer betrayed by the promises of your dreams? What happens when the future stops holding you hostage? You stand at the edge of this moment, and for the first time, there is no rush, no desperate grasping. The air tastes different here. You can see everything, the suffering, the chaos, the joy, and it all feels impossibly precious. Because the great secret is this: when you stop needing life to give you what you want, it finally gives you everything.